that was a speech by John F. Kennedy. One of his most famous speeches about warning us about secret societies. And JFK was assassinated because he stood up against the corporate military industrial enslavement machine. It's Tuesday the 26th of March 2013, and boy, is this going to be one hell of a show tonight. Welcome to a very special edition of Don's Diorama. I've got Infowars Dan Bidondi with me tonight, and he's joining us to talk about secret societies, and in particular we're going to focus more so on Freemasonry. Dan is a secret society historian, and he's also a radio host with several radio stations including Infowars, Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. Today there are numerous secret societies, and their names have been thrown around in the public arena, such as Skulls and Bones, the Masonic Lodges of Freemasonry, which I just mentioned, Bilderberg Group, the Bohemian Grove, and the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. There's a Rosicrucian Order, the Knights of Malta, and I could go on and on. Now, being such a massive subject, as I've just said, the questions are going to be mostly, however, we will have some scope for covering other secret societies a little, and maybe perhaps in the second hour. We'll see how it goes. And as Callie said, the phone lines will be open in the second hour for people who have questions for Dan. So without further ado, let's introduce Dan. Hi Dan, welcome to the show. How are you?
How you doing, Dawn?
I'm good,
I'm
thank
pretty
you.
good. Yeah, it's secret societies. It's like, yeah, first of all, it's where to start, because Freemasonry consists of many secret societies that were merged, but they also work hand in hand with other secret societies. And I got a list of over at least 80 of them that that exist now and are combined with Freemasonry. I mean, it's a conglomerate of evil. Bottom line, I mean, that's the best way to put it.
Yeah, I totally agree. Well, how about we start from the very beginning, Dan? How about you tell us how it all started for you before we go into the Freemasonry stuff? How did you get involved with researching? What triggered you to start looking into things? And then, like, how did you get involved in your research for the secret societies? And then what made you get into radio?
Well, all my life I was questioning things, and I was like basically born that way, because my family, they're just like argumentative people, and it's like we question everything, challenge everything, but I was like basically question everything, and like I always felt there was something wrong with things, and basically I have a lot of faith in God. I'm not here to push no religion on anybody, but I have a lot of faith in Yeshua Messiah, which is Jesus Christ. And, basically he's opened my eyes to a lot of stuff. And God personally installed information in my head and led me to resources and led me how to dictate truth, how to take truth out of things and, basically discernment. And over the years, I started, the stuff came to me, And, over the years, I started learning about different things. And, it's like, well, at first, it's like the best way to explain it right now is, when you buy a puzzle, just say you got a 5,000 piece puzzle, and you're like you empty the box on the table. You're like, wow, where the hell do I even start? And that's what it was in the beginning. Then you put the frame together first, obviously, get all the flat pieces, but you still got pieces. Like, what the hell has this got to do with anything? And then you eventually learn it's all linked with each other. Anything from the New World Order. I mean, it's all of it is a one giant conglomerate of the same thing. But they complicate it purposely. It's scientifically complicated, so the general public is not aware of it, and the general public don't even want to touch it with a 10-foot pole. And most churches don't even touch it with a 10-foot pole because it's so complicated. It's years of research on its own to even begin to understand the stuff and put things together. And I've been fortunate, that God just gave me this great knowledge and discernment to do this. And along the way in my journey, I met great people. I mean, former Illuminati, former Masons, who eventually became great friends of mine. And I got handed a radio show, and it was a paranormal radio show. Then there was a night slot open, and I asked them, could I do a news political show? They said, sure. Then all of a sudden, my show, Truth Radio, took off. And I was doing active report and all that, and Al see my stuff, he liked what I do. So I was off in hockey, and I started working for Infowars in Texas for about 8 months. Then I'm back in Rhode Island as a correspondent reporter for the New England correspondence for Infowars.com. And I'm still working with Infowars and doing my own thing as well. But it's been a great journey. I met so many good people like yourself, Dawn, and we work together.
Yeah. I was actually going to mention that. Yeah, we used to work together in your Truth Radio, and I was briefly your European correspondent. I did come on a couple of times for interviews on your show, and it's actually quite fun to turn tables this time. It's interesting, certainly, to be the interviewer rather than the interviewee.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun, and we exposed a lot of stuff, and the base of it all is like, where's it all start? That's the whole question. And people that's why it's so confusing. But the whole base of it all is, where's it all start? It starts with secrets, and that's where the secret societies come from. That's the base of secret societies. Now it's contrary to what the Bible teaches us, because Jesus says, "Have I told you nothing that's not a secret?" In other words, he held no secrets back. And secrets are meant to be evil. I mean, because when people keep secrets like this, they have it's called a conspiracy. This is because people misinterpret the word conspiracy nowadays. The word conspiracy, a conspiracy theory, whatever, is when two or more people get together. Just say me, you, and Dawn, right? Me, you, and whoever. We just talk about starting a car club. We want to go, renovate a car, like old Mustang or something, and that's conspiring. We're conspiring to do something, even if we do it or not, but we still conspire. That's what conspiracy means. It doesn't mean necessarily, because people think automatically hear conspiracy, they think it's false. It's not. The founding fathers of the United States here, they conspired to go to overthrow the British, and they succeeded. That's a conspiracy. And everything started with a conspiracy. That's what conspiracy means. Doesn't necessarily mean it's false. And when theory, it's just a theory. And I mean, it's like, it could be true, it could not be true, but there's conspiracy theory and conspiracy truth. And what we call here is conspiracy truth, because this is not only on in books and all that. This is historical records about Freemasonry. This is this is several nations. I mean, like all over Europe, the United States. George Washington, our first president of the United States, he wrote letters back and forth, which is in the Library of Congress, about how he dissolved himself from Freemasonry, and he warned about the Illuminati. Now, colleges here in America, if they touch the Illuminati and Freemasonry, they'll say the Illuminati ceased to exist in 1785 after the Vatican went to war with them. They said they were abolished, they ceased to exist. But however, we got letters from George Washington in 1792 warning the American lodges here about the infiltration of Freemasonry. Then we got letters from the president of Harvard University in I forgot the date, but it was in the early 1800s, talking about the infiltration of the Illuminati in the Masonic lodges. And this is about 30, 40 years after supposedly Freemasonry was abolished. And it's just like that's the whole thing about secret societies. It's like they keep everything secret, then they throw out misinformation and they cover those grounds. Like the Masonic groups, everybody's heard of the Shriners. They have hospitals for kids. They do a lot of good stuff for kids. They set up charities and everything else, but all that is a tax write-off for one, and it's a front group, so the public would never in their life believe that these guys could be part of more of a diabolical agenda. But I just want to clear this right now before we even start. I want to say right now that because a lot of people out there might know a Freemason. I got friends who are Freemasons. I'm trying to help them out of it, but just because your family or friend is a Freemason, it doesn't necessarily mean they're an evil person. Now, Freemasonry, most of Freemasonry consists of good, honest people, regular, hardworking people, even Christians, but they are hoodwinked to believe that Masonry, helps to improve illuminate with knowledge. They are hoodwinked to believe Masonry is a good thing. And like I said, most of Masonry consist of good people. It's the people at the top. When you learn later that the thing is, when you get to Freemason, if you're an occultist, you'll soar through the degrees like no tomorrow. And you would end up learning that's not an organization of God, but an organization of serving Lucifer. And a Christian, a Mason who stays a Christian, will never learn these secrets, never excel to where a Mason's supposed to be. And they just hoodwink through their career, and it's like that's where the pyramid scheme came from. All the people at the bottom fund the guys at the top. That's where they get the money from. That's where they get the structural power, and that's where they get their people in political positions, and also infiltrating churches and everything else. I mean, it's just a conglomerate of. I mean, I could be here for 3, 4, 5 hours and not even scrape the surface.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I wanted to ask you, the word Illuminati gets thrown around a lot, but it also gets misused, and probably there's a lot of confusion surrounding what it actually means. Could you explain to the listeners what you deem the meaning of it to be?
Oh, the Illuminati. The meaning of the Illuminati. It's basically Illuminati is called the Illuminated Ones. And let me get you the original. Right here. It's called the AISB. That's Ancient and Illuminated Seers of Bavaria. That's when the Illuminati was formed in Bavarian Germany, May 1st, 1776, which May 1st is now the Satanic holiday of Beltane. But the Illuminati was it means illumination, which is knowledge. It first started off as a Gnostics group, way before they were known as Illuminati. The Gnostics, back in who wrote with the Da Vinci Code story, that they said Jesus had a bloodline and he had a family. That back then. Those people were a early attempt of the Illuminati. And later on, over the years, they changed their names. And which Illuminati had to do Freemasonry, everything. And the Illuminati is the king, it's the center of the web, the kingpin of all conspiracies and all whatever you want to call it. Illuminati, they're the ones, the masterminds, they're the cream of the crop, so to speak, when it comes to secret societies. And they control every one of them.
So they're basically like an umbrella term.
Yeah, and when people think Adam Weishaupt, he was a Jesuit. He was a Jesuit, Catholic Jesuit, and he was also a professor in canon law. He lived in Bavarian Germany and established the Order of the Illuminati. Now, however, they did this to break the ties with the Vatican, because back in the 1500s, it was St. Ignatius Loyola. He was the very first Jesuit Catholic priest. He started the Order of the Jesuits. Now, the Jesuits was an order formed for one specific reason: to cover the name of their in the group was called the Order of the Illuminati. He presented that to the Pope at the time. Forgot the Pope's name. The Order of the Illuminati in the 1500s, and the Pope told them it was too revealing, so they had to make another organization to cover that. And the Jesuits is called the Order of Jesus. Basically, it's a name to fool the people to think they're Order of Jesus, the Society of Jesus, I should say, when they have nothing, the total opposite of what Jesus stood for. And what they did is they hid the Illuminati inside the Vatican for hundreds of years until when people started getting the connection between the Vatican and the Illuminati. That was the Vatican consists right from the Illuminati, and Saint Ignatius Loyola was huge into Gnosticism. Gnostics means knowledge. And he was a Gnostic himself, and he created the Order Illuminati, which means illuminated one for Lucifer. And they had to break the ties away from the Vatican. So what they did was in the 1700s, Adam Weishaupt, I just described, he formed the Order of the Illuminati. And what happened was, I think it was 1777, when one of the couriers was carrying their secret doctrines. He was carrying through Russia, and he was struck by a lightning. Now, the Russian government got a hold of those documents, and they exploited the plans of world domination. They set up, because they infiltrated Freemasonry and everything, they had the whole doctrine of world domination. And all of a sudden, the government of Germany and Russia and everybody else went to war with the Illuminati. They killed anybody who was part of the Illuminati. And the Illuminati had no choice to go underground. So in 1782, Adam Weishaupt got together with the Rothschilds, Baron Rothschilds, in the castle of Wilhelmsbad. They merged Freemasonry with the Grand Lodge, the Knights Templar, which was left of them, and the Jesuits, the Druids, the Jacobins, they all merged into one order called the Order of Freemasonry. Freemasonry, it's known today as Freemasonry. Now, the Illuminati became a secret society within that secret society because the public was already aware who the Freemasons were. They were like who they are today. People, they do good things, they do humanitarian things, and they would never expect Freemasonry to be that way. And sure enough, they would never expect Freemasonry to harbor the Illuminati. And now, again, Freemasonry today, even back then, 90+% of Freemasons had no clue. Your brother, your father could have been somebody in the Illuminati, but they would never tell you that because they took a sworn oath that, nobody knew who the Illuminati was. You couldn't ask to be part of the Illuminati. You had to be chosen. They asked you. And you would never know the reveal of who your Illuminati brothers are in the lodge until you actually became past the Minerva rank, which is the initiation rank of the Illuminati.
Yeah, that's a really good, thorough answer. Thanks for that, Dan. Do you think that it's a religion or a cult? Or a science? Or what would you say that Freemasonry is, really?
Well, I definitely have to say religion. Religion is a belief system. You set a doctrine and you believe it. You know what I mean? And you base everything, all your beliefs around that. So yes, a religion is it's part of an occult as well. It consists of many occults, but ultimately it is a religion. It's a Luciferian doctrine, and again, it's many levels. And people, good honest Christians, go to lodges every Monday and have no clue that they're actually serving Lucifer.
Have you heard of is it Regius manuscript? It was dated back in 1390. It was supposed to be the oldest known Masonic text.
Yeah, because Masons, they've been around since the days of Babylon. But over the years, they had different names. And they had many texts and everything else. And over the years, many besides that. And I haven't heard of that, no. But, they had many texts and everything else. And how to build their structures according to the stars, which was all occultism. How to build certain structures, in the shapes to bring a certain energy to the planet. Hence why Washington, D.C., the Vatican, and Paris, France are all built strategically around the star systems of Pleiades and Orion, and also the dog star Sirius, which is also known as the blazing star. It's all built for one reason, to resurrect Nimrod. Nimrod was in the Bible. He was the ruler of Babylon, which they know him today as Osiris. And that goes to resurrect him, which we call the Antichrist. And that's that king. They want to resurrect Osiris to rule the world once again, to the new Babylon, known as the New World Order. And that's what everything's fit in play for this one event.
Right. Do you see all the different secret societies, like, for example, Skulls and Bones, Rosicrucian Order, Knights of Malta, and in addition to Freemasonry? You think they're still in existence today? All these orders and intent on bringing about. Do you think there's any truth to the rumours that are saying that they're intent on bringing about a new world order?
Well, we know on record, Skulls and Bones still exist today. That's on record. You had the Bushes, a very well-known Skull and Bones. Even JFK's father and some of his family were Skull and Bones Masons and so on. But JFK and his brother Bobby were the only two good apples off the tree, so to speak. And they had nothing to do with secret societies, and that's why that speech you played, they wanted to abolish secret societies. And, there's many orders. I mean, you have the Elders of Zion, you have the Trilateral Commission, the Bohemian Grove, which we all know about, and that's on record, too. The Council on Foreign Relations, Club of Rome, Knights of Columbus, International Order of Rainbow for Girls, Job's Daughters. I mean, it just goes on and on. It's funny how they name the children, the order for kids, for young male boys. They call it the De Molay Society. And Jacques de Molay was a French Freemason who was also a Knights Templar. He was the last leader of the Knights Templar, and he was a child molester. I mean, he had sodomy with young kids, young boys all the time, and they openly, blatantly named their order for young boys the Society for the De Molay Society.
Dan, I wanted to ask you something else. I seen recently in an interview with a 32nd degree Freemason who broke his oath that there was some interesting information stated, for example, that the police had no power of arrest inside any Masonic lodge, and that if police arrive in uniform inside of a Masonic lodge, the lodge must be immediately closed, and that if police who are members of any Masonic lodge, they may not and do not come inside in uniform or armed and do so willingly. What's your opinion of this? Are you familiar with any of that?
Oh, no, not really, but I mean, like, if you're referring to how people get favoritism because of Freemasonry, that goes on all the time. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen that information, and I thought, hang on, I just want to see what your thoughts were about that, because obviously, if that is true, whether I don't know whether it is or not, but if it's true, then it does kind of lean that way, doesn't it? It doesn't seem to suggest that there is something a bit suspect there. But as you harpen back to what you said about not all people that are Freemasons are corrupt or are like following this agenda, absolutely agree with you. I mean, I did know somebody personally that was a Freemason, but I only found out after his death. I mean, I knew that he went to the lodge, but I didn't know any details, obviously, but I found out after his death he was a Master Mason. But that's when I seen the certificate.
Oh, yeah.
At the time, I didn't really know much about Freemasonry until after then I started looking into it a bit more at the time. But yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, no, you know, I mean, the thing is, like, you mentioned Master Mason. I mean, it goes with titles and all that. They give these Masons Granger names to make them feel and sound important.
Yes, it wasn't very high level. It was only like third degree. Yeah, and as you say, like about the hierarchy, there's obviously a hierarchy, and the higher you progress, the more knowledge or whatever you're privy to do with the Masonic order. There's certain things you won't be told when you're lower down, and many people that we probably walk by in the street might be involved in it, but that doesn't mean to say that they are actually following or like aware of exactly what's going on up the very top of the of the ranks.
Yeah, it doesn't mean like necessarily all these people are part of this conspiracy. You know what I mean? They're just pawns in this big society. It's a giant pyramid structure, and all the people at the bottom have no clue in hell of what the upper hierarchy ranks are about. And it starts off when the Mason joins the Freemasonry Lodge, they call it the Blue Lodge. It's the first 3 degrees of the Freemasonry, and it's called the Blue Lodge. Now, those are initiate candidates, and when they they take sworn oaths, secret oaths, and oaths on their blood, and they draw Christians in there, pastors, and anybody, a Muslim, whatever, and say, you could believe in whatever you want. You have to believe in a deity, a god of some sort, but you atheists are not allowed. So what they do is they slowly indoctrinate you with your own stuff. And if you're a Luciferian and whatever, you're gonna rise through those ranks like no tomorrow. And if you're into the occult and everything else, and the first 3 degrees of the Blue Lodge, and before you move to the 4th degree, they ask you if you want to go to the Scottish Rite or you want to go to the York Rite. Now the York Rite is only 9 degrees. That's a quicker way to the top. The rest is going through the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, all the way up to the 32nd degree. Now the York Rite is only 9 degrees to go up that ladder, and the rest is about 30 steps up the ladder. You know what I mean? And the York Rite is basically if you're into the occult, you'll be recommended to go through the York Rite because it's quick way to the top. Now the people go through the Scottish Rite. Now they're right-handed Masons. And, it consists of a lot of Christians, but also occultists as well, if they decide to go to the Scottish Rite. And, but it's a slower pace up the ladder, so to speak. And either way, it's like every level you go, you're being deceived and lied to. You think you're learning more new secrets when you're being lied to. Just for the example, we'll start off with the Masonic symbol. You got the square and compass with the G in it. They tell you it symbolizes architecture for builders and which normally a square and compass would, because you need that to, create a blueprint and whatnot. And G stands for God, and then you learn it's about eventually you learn it's about geometry, the geometry God, the Gnosticism, and then you learn eventually it's not none of the either sort at all. And it's and you learn it's actually a Luciferian God, doctrine here, and what the square and compass represent ultimately, it represents a male mounting a female, and they don't call it G. This is where the phrase G spot come from in sexuality. They don't call it a G spot for nothing, because right in the middle of that they put the G, and now that's where it originated from, G spot, because everything in the occult is to do with sexuality. Now, what that represents is the triangle upwards represents the male phallic, the penis, and the one down represents the female vulva, which is the vagina, and that's a male mounting a female. And also, it's also part of the Kabbalah style, which again, it's a downward triangle and an upward triangle intertwined with each other. Now, this is confused a lot with the Star of David. Now, I want to point out one thing. Now, to the people who are Jewish, David never had a star. The star was put on the flag by the Rothschild. And as a matter of fact, some of the Jews, they were mad that the star was put on because that was the evil star. David never had a star, and God warned in the book of Amos that those are the stars of your gods, and they're referring to the false gods, which is Kabbalah. At the time they were doing Kabbalah, which is ancient Satanism, or part of it is anyway, and that's what the symbol ultimately represents. And but all through the ranks, you learn different meanings for that one symbol, but all those meanings are one or why. Like, in other words, it's an exoteric meaning and an esoteric meaning. Exoteric means there's many meanings for that, but they're all wrong. The esoteric could be one, two, a few meanings, but they're right, And you never learn the esoteric meaning if you excel to where they want you to be.
Right, I see. I've got a couple of questions I wanted to ask you there. Can we go back to the Scottish
Sure.
Rite first of all, before we return back to the symbolism, because there is something else about symbolism I want to ask you. But first, with the Scottish Rite, I believe you have mentioned before that there's a difference between in America, or else I read it somewhere, there's a difference between the Scottish Rite in America and the Scottish Rite in the UK. Is it supposed to be that there is more to the Scottish Rite in the UK? There's more work involved to raise up the ranks than there is in the...
Oh, yeah, absolutely, because every degree you go through, you have to memorize a series of rituals, a series of steps. And the lodge masters there, they take you through these steps and they walk you around the building. And there's so many different rituals and duties. It's like you basically memorizing the place, so to speak. And there's a lot of money you got to pay to actually go to that next degree. And memorize codes, passwords, handshakes, rituals, and it's a lot of work, a lot of money you got to pay to get through that. And basically, it's a lot of money and a lot of time and effort and everything else. And it's a quicker process through the York Rite, but the Scottish Rite was famous from Aleister Crowley. What's his name there? Aleister Crowley was part of the Scottish Rite as well. And hold on, I'm sorry. I'm like looking through my notes here, and I'm like stumbling away. Albert Pike basically was the father of the Scottish Rite. I couldn't get that name out of my head. I apologize. But Albert Pike, there's so many names and dates, and it's hard to. It's crazy,
it's such a vast topic, isn't it? I mean, you could talk about it for days, really. There's so much to it. That's why I try to narrow it down to the predominantly talking about Freemasonry. The other thing I wanted to ask you was about was it the Order of Chaos? What was the name of that symbol again?
Well, they had many symbols. They had the double-headed eagle, which was actually a phoenix, and that faced in the opposite directions. That's the Egyptian god Mamun-Ra, which is a god of wealth and power. And that's generally the symbol for the 33rd degree or the 32nd degree of the Scottish Rite. And under its Orbo Arbor Chaos, which is order out of chaos, which is a Hegelian dialect, meaning problem, reaction, solution. In other words, when you have order out of chaos, like what that means is like basically to push the new world order out with the old and with the new, and to do that, you got to create your own chaos. You got to manufacture.
That brings in a whole false flag thing. It's a whole other
show.
show.
Absolutely. Exactly. You want to go to war? You know what I mean? You want to go to war? You want something done? You want people to give up rights or whatever? And people are going to say no, of course. So what you do is you create your own crisis. Then you offer the solution that you wanted to do in the first place, and people accept it, and that's order out of chaos. False flag terrorism, pretense of war.
Have you, right, you know how the going off Freemasonry for a minute, because I wanted to ask you something about the Knights of Malta, the offshoot of the Grand Masonic Lodge. Is it true that they are immune to laws and can travel free and trade freely?
Oh yeah, because with the Knights of Malta, they're generally the per se the Secret Service. They're compared to the Secret Service of being the Secret Service of the Pope and the Vatican. Now, due to that's why you see these bunch of people at the Vatican. They look like jokers from old court movie. I mean, a court jester, from an old medieval movie. But they dress like jokers. But they're called the Knights of Malta. And these guys do not get paid. Half of them, I'm not bashing homosexuals, but half of them homosexuals are into the occult. I mean, it's just disgusting what these people do. And these people to give their life for the Pope if they have to and everything else. But under Vatican law, that's why they could go to most countries who uphold Vatican law. They basically have immunity in most places they go to. That's why they have that power, because the Vatican and the power of the Vatican international law protects the Knights of Malta.
Right, I see. Okay, thanks. That clears that up for me. You mentioned, I seen that you'd mentioned about the strongmen of Freemasonry being the demon forces behind the lodge. Do you want to talk about that? About the people like we mentioned, like Tubal Cain, Baphomet, Jaballon, Hiram Abith, and Dagon.
Now again, when you join Freemasonry, they have a Bible on the altar. They say, "Oh, it's we'll welcome." And they welcome Muslims and any other faith too. But they generally have a Bible or a Quran on the altar, and they say, "Oh, it's we honor Jesus here." But the thing is, when you're a Christian joining, but you say you could believe in Jesus here. But the thing is, you are not allowed to talk to any other brother in the lodge about Jesus or his deity. However, Hiram Abiff is probably one of the most worshipped figures in the Bible. I mean, I'm sorry, in Freemasonry. Hiram Abiff was in King Solomon's temple, and he's the one that tried to bury King Solomon and all that. And it's just like this guy was an evil person, a very extremely evil person. He was a great builder at the time, and that Freemasonry worships this guy. He talks about this guy more than. This is supposed to be a Christian organization on top of it sometime. And they talk about Hiram Abiff and these evil people like Tubal Cain. Tubal Cain means another king. And this guy was supposedly survived the flood. And because the Bible says there was nothing before the flood and after the flood. And Tubal Cain was a seed, basically ancestor of Cain himself from the Bible in Genesis. And he survived the flood to bring the knowledge, the Gnosticism knowledge, to the people, and basically that it's a string of evil people, and ultimately it's called the bloodlines of the Illuminati. To bring forth the Antichrist, and the bloodlines go back way farther back. People think the Rothschilds and all these people are bloodlines of the Illuminati. They are, but it goes far, but way back then. It goes back thousands of years back to the Garden of Eden, and we can get into that later on if you want. And Tubal Cain, Hiram Abiff, and all these people that they talk about constantly, and this is supposed to be a Christian organization, and they honor these evil people. And at the top, they talk about Osiris a lot, how he brought knowledge to people, and Lucifer, they believe he's the god of light, and Adonai, which is Yahweh God, he's the god of darkness, and they twist everything around and tip you upside your head so they can reconvert you. In other words, they'll turn you from a good, honest Christian or low-level occultist into a pure Luciferian. And it's just It's a string of evil. That's all it is. And they talk about these guys that those are strong. Bill Schnoebelen. That's where I got that information from. He was a former Illuminati, former Freemason. He was in the Memphis Mizraim, which is a higher, goes up to almost 360 degrees. Actually, 360 degree of masonry, which the most 33 degrees don't even know exist. But anyway, he was part of these, and he was a 33 degree in the regular Freemasonry, and he spoke of these people that they talk about constantly in the lodge. And they call them the strong men of Freemasonry because they are most talked about, most basically worshipped. They do rituals to simulate the death of Solomon, King Solomon, and everything else in Solomon's temple. When basically they totally twisted out of proportion. And it's in the Freemasonry. It's like I'll talk about with George Washington in a few minutes. I want to get a little conspiracy theory cleared up with that, but that's what these people call, not George Washington, but the ones I mentioned. Those are the strong arm, the demons of Freemasonry, which also consist of Lucifer and Baphomet, which is not a form of Lucifer, because they don't call it the craft for nothing. Freemasonry started off as a craft. It's a witchcraft association of black magic and everything. That's why it's called the craft. And they use black magic and intertwine it with Christianity and everything else to, slowly indoctrinate people.
Right. So, as regards Freemasonry, if someone wants to join, is it invite only, or what is the criteria to join a lodge or to become a Freemason? Do they allow women in, or?
Oh yes, the Order of the Eastern Star is the women's sect of Freemasonry that was started by Aleister Crowley. He created that order to allow women into Freemasonry. Now, women, they're kept at a bare minimum of knowledge, and only the very select would want to become they call it a Mother of Darkness, which is a woman's sect of the Illuminati. These people are pure evil, and they're black witch. They're black witches, black magic, whatever. And it's horrible what these people do. And the Order of Eastern Star was established for Mason's wives. So if you want to get your family involved with Masonry, your wife would go into the Order of the Eastern Star. Your daughter would go to the one of the what's called the Rainbows, or the Order. The Daughters of Job. Your daughter would join. Your son would go to the Jake Steve Molay. And they would get your whole family involved with Masonry. So,
why do you think people want to join secret societies in the first place?
Well, first of all, it's I'm sorry, guys.
And also, once you become a member of, we're talking about Freemasonry here. Once you become a member of a Freemason, do you tend to stay as a Freemason for life, or if say you suddenly decided you didn't believe in teachings, or you just had second thoughts and you wanted to leave, would it be straightforward, or would there be any complications or consequences due to the secrecy of the organisation if you were attempting to leave? Are people afraid to leave? Well, that's quite a few questions.
Generally, no. You're supposed to be a Mason for life, but people do leave. And back in the day, you would be probably killed. But see how things are today. People like Bill Schnoebelen who've left high levels of Freemasonry, and the thing is, God protects people like that. And if you leave, that means it's a bad thing, and you don't want nothing to do with it. But there used to be consequences all the time, but now people can get out of Masonry. They're not supposed to, because they take a life sworn oath into Masonry, and you're supposed to be a Mason until you're dead. But people do leave it, and the reason why people join Masonry because look what they do. They say, our founder fathers were Freemasons. They got the movies like National Treasure, which was a huge promotion. Because the thing is, Freemasonry, they're looking for candidates. They're running low on members, which is mainly running low on money. So they put movies out like National Treasure and stuff to make people think that Freemason is such a noble and great historic thing. And they have commercials, saying you could be somebody important in history. You could be, they just fill people's heads with all this garbage to make you feel powerful and everything. And
yeah, so that could turn the tables in that the person wants to then maybe some people might want to stay because rather than leave because they become addicted to how it feels, feeling important, because they're part of this secret society, they're very important. They're maybe feeling empowered. You think?
Oh no, yeah, that's one of the main causes, because people, they can go into a courtroom, and if they suspect that the judge might be a Freemason, they'll give a certain foot gesture, put their stand in a certain way, or a hand gesture to signal to the judge that, hey, I'm a fellow brother. And now there's a code of Masonry. No matter what happens, even if you were to kill that person's wife, they're under the sworn oath and cause that you can never testify or condemn a fellow brother. So no matter what your charge is, that judge will do everything in his power to get you off that charge. And so with the cops or whatever else, that's if they know you're a Freemason. And that's what the noble cause that these people feel, and also gives you high positions. You get into politics easier. You become more of a higher class in the society, and you start earning more money when you get into deep levels of Freemasonry, and you become more of a VIP, so to speak.
They also have handshakes as well, don't they? The certain handshake that they do.
Oh yeah, I mean, like they'll walk up to each other, shake each other's hand, and for instance, a Master Mason would grab the skin between I believe it's because so many handshakes, it's hard to memorize them all, but they would when you shake the hand, they'll grab the skin between the thumb and the pointing finger, and the other Mason would put his thumb on the third knuckle. You know what I mean? To signify, yeah, I'm a Mason. Or they do a little lion's paw type thing, and or you grab each other's wrists to shake hands, and there's tons. Like Aleister Crowley, he was into all these lodges and everything. He said there were so many secret codes, secret handshakes, gestures, symbols that he couldn't even memorize half of them because it's so complex they make it, and it's rather difficult to memorize every one of them, and it's. That's why they make it so complicated.
Sorry, I'm just getting bombarded with questions there. Anthony from the chat's asking, I would ask, what is evil specifically, though? Pure evil, what's that?
Specifically, pure evil in Masonry?
Yeah.
Well, the whole thing is the evil part about it is basically, again, everything, regardless of people believe in the Bible or not, Masonry is based around the Bible but twisted wise. And what they do is basically they teach you illumination. Like, you could become God yourself. You could know the knowledge of good and evil. Like, back in the Garden of Eden, when Lucifer, there's a serpent promised Eve, you can be like God. You can know the knowledge of good and evil. That's what it's all about, and that's what the whole indoctrination is about. Again, at the lower levels, they promise you this, that, and the other thing, and it's nothing but darkness. Like President John Quincy Adams, the 6th President of the United States, he was anti-Freemasonry. He told, his quote was, Freemasonry promises you light, but provides nothing but darkness. And again, it indoctrinates people. That's the evil part about it. It indoctrinates you to make you feel like that you're your own God, and Lucifer is the true light bearer.
Do you think there's a connection with the intelligence agencies like MI5, MI6, CIA, FBI,
absolutely.
And the secret societies? And how could you elaborate on how they're connected?
Yeah, and let me state that too. Again, same thing. I mean, just because somebody works for the CIA doesn't necessarily mean they're in on the plot. You know what I mean? And you could be a pencil pusher, or just you're a guy who drives the van, so to speak. Whatever. It doesn't mean all CIA people are part of this, or MI6 or whatever. It's people at the top again, people who know top secret levels and whatnot. They know, and they're pure indoctrinated in this filth. But yes, secret societies they're the backbone of these organizations, such as the CIA, especially the NSA, which is not the United States organization. It's a joint task force. This is where that joint, I forget the name of that now. Interpol came from. Interpolice, in other words, like police working together from all over the world. Interpol was created by the NSA, which is consists of UK, United States, and Australia. They created this organization, an international organization to spy on people, and they're the backbone of the MI6, MI5, whatever, and the CIA, NSA, and all these other organizations, agencies, I should say.
What kind of rituals are you aware of? Are you aware of any of the rituals that they do? When you're joining and throughout the ranks, have you heard of any of the rituals that are performed?
Oh yeah, there's tons of rituals. What they do is they simulate you dying. They actually simulate you like one of the fellow Masons. He takes like a rubber mallet or something, and you simulate being killed. They'll put you in a coffin and they'll resurrect you. And it goes back to the story of Solomon. You know, this is where it came from. You know, Solomon's temple, when he moved his body 3 times, and they, you know, supposedly resurrected him, whatever. And again, it's all to do with occultism. And you got good, honest Christians taking part of this Babylonian crap, and they think it's just, oh, I'm just doing this to get another degree or whatever. It's nothing. It's just innocent, but they actually simulate occultic things, and there's so many rituals. There's the death rituals they have, resurrection rituals, sex rituals, where they have orgies and everything, and it is that evil and diabolical. So,
I mean, how you've already explained a bit about how it spreads out throughout society, the Freemasonry, how its influence spreads out. Obviously, there's part of it in the courts. And what other ways are they influencing?
Oh, everything from government to government agencies to courts to schools to churches. Now they infiltrated every aspect of life. I mean, like especially important, the politicians, Congress. You know, I'm not saying that they're all like that, but I mean, like they control all these things. Every aspect in life they control.
Okay, and over in America, or even in the UK and the governments, are most of the presidents, for example, in the US, are they Freemasons? Or has any of the presidents in the past not been a Freemason?
Oh yeah, there's been several Freemason presidents that openly admitted they were Freemasons, and there's been most of them were not Freemasons on record anyway. With recent presidents, George W. Bush, his father, they were Masons. Ronald Reagan was an honorary Mason, and Bill Clinton, we're not too sure of, but these are all attendees of Bohemian Grove and everything, and there's no confirmation yet on Barack Obama being anything to do with Freemasonry. But we know he consists of a higher cult than that, for certain reasons. But I mean, like, the thing is, Freemasonry, they love nothing more here in America to rub it in that, oh, George Washington was a Freemason, to make people, oh, wow, if George Washington was a Freemason, maybe that I should join. But the thing is, George Washington, he was a Mason, but he only actually attended a handful of lodge meetings in his whole life. And on his deathbed, he denounced ever being a Mason. In other words, he said, I regret being part of Freemasonry, and because he knew Freemasonry was nothing to do with good. Now, regardless if Washington was a Christian or not, he denounced Freemasonry because of the Illuminati and everything else, and the evil that was intertwined with the Freemasonry. And Thomas Jefferson was allegedly a Freemason, but it was not confirmed about that. John Quincy Adams was strong anti. He had he put pamphlets up and everything else to try to get Freemasonry the hell out of this country, but he never succeeded, unfortunately.
Okay, we're just going.
I'm sorry. The biggest Freemason president we had, the most destructive one, was FDR. He was the 32nd degree, president of the United States, and also a 32nd degree Mason. And his vice president eventually, Henry Wallace, was the 33rd vice president of the United States and 33rd degree Mason. These guys were pure Illuminati, and they helped Hitler come to power. Him, Mussolini, and the Pope, they all helped Hitler come to power, as they were calling for the new order. I mean, the FDR and Henry Wallace called, the slogan was the new order. And over the Pope, Mussolini, and Hitler were calling for the new. I'm sorry, let me get that straight. I'm like a little ahead of myself. The Pope, Mussolini, and Hitler were calling for the new order, and why FDR and Henry Wallace were calling for the New Deal. That meant the New World Order. They were trying to push a New World Order, and FDR and Henry Wallace were personally responsible for putting the all-seeing eye and the pyramid structure on the back of the U.S. dollar bill. They did that purposely, and it means the New World Order is now a successful enterprise. Underneath the pyramid says Novus Ordo Seclorum, and New Roman numerals from 1776. 1776 was not the establishment of the country. That's when we had the revolution. Well, the country wasn't even established technically 1781. May 1st, 1776 was the official establishment of the Illuminati. Novus Ordo Seclorum means New World Order. So they were all pushing for a New World Order. And obviously they failed because they were trying to do it by force. Now they're trying to do it by stealth.
Okay, Dan, I think we're going to bring in the server for a minute, but just before we do that, because we're just going to play a wee jingle just before we go on to the next hour, because you've given a lot of very long answers, and we want to continue this on to the next hour, obviously, and open the phone lines. I've still got another couple of questions as well, but so what I'll do is I'll just read out the phone numbers for people. So you can either, that'll be 4 minutes time, Skype Bob's Backyard, or call from the UK if you're in a landline. It's 0161 298 0298, and if you're calling internationally, you just add on 0044 0161 298 0298. And can we have a tune just now, please?
So if you want the truth, go to
Darkcity Radio.
Welcome back to a special extended edition of Don's Diorama. The phone lines, as we mentioned before, are open, and I've got a bunch of questions from people in the chat as well. So I think we'll maybe dive into those first. How is the Robo Happy from our crew. He asks, how is the Ordo Templi Orientis connected with the Bavarian Illuminati?
Well, the Ordo Templis is the OTO is connected because it's from Aleister Crowley, basically helped create that as well. And Freemasonry is the Illuminati. The Illuminati is like the center of the web in Freemasonry. They're the ones who control and dictate everything that goes on in Freemasonry. And again, Freemasonry is the front name of the public, but the Illuminati control Freemasonry. It's which are all in one basically. And again, it's a secret society within the secret society. And
how is the Golden Dawn? I mean, how would the Golden Dawn be connected with Illuminati?
The Golden Dawn, again, like I got a list here of all these secret societies that are connected with the Freemasonry, and they're connected again to the occultism and all that, and they're direct under the basically they fall under the Brotherhood of Freemasonry. Same thing with the Knights of Columbus here in America. They have Knights of Columbuses everywhere, but they're extremely low level. Now there's different levels. Like the Knights of the Golden Dawn as well. There's different levels of, into the occult and all that. And they're all associated somehow, some way with Freemasonry.
Can we take it back to the Freemasonry? And I actually heard before about this Aldobrandini family. They've got a villa in Rome, I believe, and one of the Aldobrandinis was actually a pope. How does the Black Pope connect to all?
Well, the Black Pope, it goes back to Saint Ignatius Loyola. He was the first Jesuit Catholic priest, and ultimately the Black Pope. When the Jesuits started rolling, and the Black Pope is basically unknown to people. Like he's the man behind the scenes. That's why he's called the Black Pope, and the White Pope stands out in front and takes all the credit for everything. And seeing we got this new Pope now, Pope Francis II. Now he's the first ever Jesuit Pope. He was a Jesuit cardinal, therefore he falls under the jurisdiction of the Black Pope. and they merged the two churches together now. Because remember, Rome split. They split into the Jesuits and they split into the Catholics. Roman Catholics, Roman Jesuits. And now they merged the churches back together again. And it's under rule by one person, which is the Black Pope. And the Pope here right now, he's a Jesuit cardinal. Therefore, he takes direct orders from the Black Pope by oath and everything else. And now he's the Pope, the White Pope. Therefore, the Catholic Church once again is united with the Jesuit order. And which fits biblical prophecy as well. Of being, we really think that this guy right here, it's not confirmed, it's not definite, but we really think this guy right here could be the false prophet that the Bible spoke of thousands of years ago.
Now, at the start of the interview, remember you mentioned you knew a lot of ex-Illuminati, and have you had any personal contact with Freemasons, and maybe can you talk a bit about your experiences of that?
Oh, yes, several. I mean, again, I got a couple friends. Some were in Masonry, and a couple got out, thank God, and some are still in. And they just like the one, I talk to, but they just don't care. You know what I mean? They're not even Christian or nothing. They just like it because it's a noble thing to them, and they don't see nothing wrong with it. Even though I told them, what to expect for at the next degree, but nothing's sinking into them. They just don't care. But the former Masons like Bill Schnoebelen, and he was a former Illuminati. Cisco Wheeler, she was a former Mothers of Darkness. Fritz Springmeier, I mean, he's an expert in the Illuminati as well, and the Freemasonry. Tex Mars. I mean, I know all these people on a personal level, and they taught me a great abundance of knowledge over the years, and I had them on my show. They were on, I interviewed them on the Infowars, the Alex Jones show, and it's just like they know these people, and talk to them on private, off the air and everything. They tell you deeper and darker stuff that they really can't say on the air, and it's just like obtaining all this knowledge from all these great people. It's amazing.
I think we just had a caller. Oh, okay. False alarm. If any of the crew have any questions for Dan? Yes, Susan, go on.
Thank you, Dawn. Good. Hello, Dan. I'm calling from Australia. My name's Susan.
Hi, Susan.
Hi, Dan. Do you know the origin of this symbol that people either call the triangle, the pyramid? Do you know where that symbol actually originates from, or which country, or where?
Oh, yeah.
The year that it sort of became predominant in religious orders. Thank you.
Oh, yes. It goes right back to the Tower of Babel. That's where it's called a ziggurat. Originally, a pyramid's called a ziggurat. In other words, it's a structure that goes high into the sky, and it goes back to the Tower of Babel. Now, Nimrod, this is where the Sinai also came from, too, that he said he could see everybody. So watch what you do because I can see what you're doing, because he claimed to be a god, and that's where that comes from. That the pyramid, the ziggurat, the triangle, it's like basically represents, prosperity, knowledge, and all that. That's why people build structures in shapes of pyramids, because they think it brings knowledge and prosperity and everything. But it's all back to Babylonian. And the thing is, too, a lot of people, in case we drift off in that direction, I want to make a quick, because Eastern mysticism is so complex. The easiest way to figure it out is all the Eastern religions, every one of them, are all nothing but a mere fraction of a piece from the Babylonian religion. Because when Babylon was split up into nations, they all took one piece. They took a piece of the Babylonian religion, and of course they called Nimrod a different name, and they have different stories from, such as Krishna, the so-called prophet Krishna.
Yeah.
He was nothing but Nimrod. They just had different names for him. And all the Eastern mysticism, all the Eastern religions are all actually one religion. They're all spawned off a fraction piece broken off of Babylonian religion. And no, sorry, go ahead.
And do you think that pyramid is a universal symbol that has been hijacked by religious orders, and actually is its original design was for the people to be able to see beyond?
No, well, that's what they throw that disinformation out or whatever, because this is even Christians today have a bad thing of being hypocrites, because if anybody knows the Bible, God forbid it. Even the Jews knew this too, and the Hebrews and all that. They all knew that symbolism was strictly forbidden for this certain reason. because God said, don't make any image or any symbol, anything that's, even if it's heaven above, do not make it for this specific reason. Because these occultism, they'll take a symbol and, the symbols you see today everywhere, in cars and everything, they're thousands of years old. Of course, they incorporate a different meaning for them, but like we'll take, for instance, the peace symbol. It's universal. Everybody knows it means peace, right? But it originated from Nero. He was the emperor of Rome. He had a hatred for Christianity, and he created this symbol for the hatred of Christ. And he used to stage terror attacks and blame it on Christians, so Rome would go to war with them. And that's where you see the Nazi sign. Everybody thinks it's Adolf Hitler, the Nazis. No, that's an ancient Hindu sun god symbol that was adopted by Adolf Hitler. And Volkswagen. It's a Kabbalah, Vav Vav Vav, which is 666. You're invoking the number of the beast, and you'll get all these symbols out there today that people think, oh, it's this, but again, it's an exoteric meaning, which is many, but they're all wrong. And the thing with symbols, like a lot of people come up to me and say, "Oh yeah, God created the stuff, and that people just hijacking." Well, again, God says, "Do not make any symbols or any statues or anything of, even if it's heaven or the earth, whatever. Don't make them because of the specific reason." Because so when I also state the reason why, now a symbol is known as a talisman in the occult. A symbol could actually give domain to a demon or a fallen angel. Regardless of the size of it, could be the size of a penny, or a little quarter.
You say to a demon or a fallen angel, why just the demon and the fallen? Why wouldn't it represent both sides of the equation? And I believe, Dawn, you have a question. Thank you, Dan. It's a pleasure being here.
You too. Now, again, you gotta go. God warns us of this stuff, and especially in the books of Exodus and everything else, it warns us about the use of symbols for that reason, because it actually, that's the only way it gives the talisman, and that's known in witchcraft and the occult. A talisman gives unclean spirit, a demon, or a fallen angel. It gives them dominion to be here. Permission if somebody uses a talisman for a specific reason. And Lucifer promised all his angels when he fell that they would have dominion on this planet. So if somebody, just say you started a cult and you created a symbol, and you said that symbol is a symbol of that's the rock god of rocks. Satan would actually have one of his demons occupy that to fulfill that, and it's like, again, it's a talisman that gives power from evilness. And it opens a world to a spiritual realm.
I've got Callie on the line now. She has a question for you, Dan.
Sure.
Hi, Callie.
Hi, Dan. Hello, Dawn. Actually, I've a couple of things, a couple of points I'd like to make, but they actually do relate to each other. You mentioned earlier on, Dan, the Illuminati, one of their main objectives is to bring about the return of Nimrod. Now, it occurred to me, with my conspiratorial frame of mind, it occurred to me that not only would they go about that process energetically, by which I'm talking about the rituals and their agenda to keep the entire population of the planet in fear, so as to create the energetic environment right for this Nimrod character. So not only would they go about it energetically, they'd also actually go about it physically, because these are diabolical people. And it occurred to me that genetic modification and the explorations into the realms of genetic modification would be part of that too. And it was revealed just a few days ago that 150 human-animal hybrids have been produced in 3 English universities over the past 2 or 3 years. And so that kind of, when you said about Nimrod, that was the first image that came to my mind, that, they would actually try physically to do this. And then it occurred to me as well, the Zionist agenda, which has been around for a lot longer than this nation state of Israel has been around. But the Zionist agenda was to actually take that land. It was absolutely a condition which ended the Second World War. Head sort of boss Zionists, if you like, for want of a better word, were given other options. You know, there was land in Africa, Mesopotamia, yeah, it was offered as a Madagascar was offered as a refuge for the Jews running from Europe. But it was absolutely insisted on by the Zionists that it had to be Palestine. It was there or nowhere. And so it occurred to me that because these people go back centuries and centuries, they may either believe or know that they can find some genetic material belonging to this Nimrod, if indeed he ever did truly exist. I don't know. I guess, first of all, I just wanted to get that out there because this is occurring to me as you're speaking, Dan. And because you said that one of the main objectives was to bring about the return of Nimrod, and you did mention during the break that they had 5 main objectives. So I would really love you to elaborate on that if you could.
Oh, absolutely. No, you brought up a great point because that covers a lot of things I wanted to talk about. First of all, to understand, like I was told by from Illuminati people that I mentioned, to even begin to understand Illuminati, you got to understand the bloodlines. And the bloodlines answer many, many questions about the Anunnaki, about the giants, and so on, and this genetic stuff that's going on, like the 150 lab rats, I should say, they got in the lab. But this has been going on for thousands of years. This is called singular technology or grid technology. People think it's new, but there's nothing new about it. They've been doing this for thousands of years. When even the book of Genesis talks about this in chapter 6, when he says the sons of God, referring to the fallen angels that fell with Lucifer, they had intercourse with the woman on the planet, and they were known as the Nephilim. They were a hybrid cross-genetic between humans and angels. And they were giants, and this is where Greek mythology comes in. People think Greek mythology is just a myth. No, it's not. These creatures really existed. They're half animal, half fish, or whatever, and these things really existed. And not only Greek, but Aztec, ancient American Indians here, too. They called them the Star People because they had 6 fingers, 6 toes. They used to, in the movies here in America, you see an Indian hold his hand up and go, how? They did that for a reason. When you put your hand up, they counted your fingers to make sure you was one of these Nephilim, because they had a fear for the Star People, and they were big, tall people, strong, of men of renown. The Bible calls it, and the bloodline is all the way back from Cain. Cain from the Bible was the son of Lucifer, the serpent that begot Eve, which begot Cain, and that's why God refers to the sons of Adam and the sons of Cain. There were 2 bloodlines. The Lumen bloodline started from Cain. He was the first born from, basically the seed of Lucifer to bring forth the Antichrist on the planet. And that's where Hiram Abiff comes along, Tubal Cain, to preserve that bloodline. Today we got the Rothschilds and so on, the royal crown. That's why they all intermarry with their own family, to preserve that royal bloodline, because the bloodline is what brings forth the Antichrist. And it's mentioned in the book of Genesis that when he confronted Eve after they ate the fruit, Eve and the serpent, that her seed would bring forth the Savior and his seed would bring forth the Antichrist. And this was long prophesied long ago, and it's all had to be set up that way. And what Satan did is he tried to kill the whole bloodline so Jesus would never come to the planet. That's why in Genesis 6, when he had what people thought were ancient aliens, they were having intercourse, and this is where the flood ties into this. God destroyed the world not because of the people being sinful, only that, because when he said they were corrupt, he meant the DNA. When he told Noah that you are perfect in your generations, he meant that you're perfect, your DNA, your genome was perfect the way God made you, the sons of Adam. And because these things, they had, had intercourse with the woman, and their DNA and their structure all changed. And his planet was far beyond any imagination you could ever imagine. That's why God had to destroy the world. But he did say that the Nephilim would still be after the flood, because people like Tubal Cain that survived the flood to preserve that royal bloodline, to birth the Antichrist, which is they when Nimrod was killed, they say he was cast to the underworld. And he's going to come back as Osiris, which is we call in the Bible the Antichrist. He's going to be the seed of him, the seed of Cain, but also be under the power by the dragon, basically possessed by Lucifer himself. And he's going to claim to be the Christ to deceive the planet. And even other religions have their version of the Antichrist, but it's all the same person. It's Lucifer. They have different names for him. Even the Muslims talk about that version of the Antichrist, Hindus and so on. But it's their version of Nimrod, the very person they worship, without even knowing that they're trying to resurrect. And it's through the bloodlines.
Dan,
and if you want to cover the priorities quick, again, the whole goal, number one goal, bottom line is they want a new world order, a destruction of the old order out of chaos and bring in a new. And their goal is to bring in Lucifer himself. Their goal, their God, their savior, their king of the new world order is the Antichrist, is Lucifer in the flesh, just about. And they go by the number 5 is very important to them. They have the 5 priorities, the 5. I could read them both of them real quick. And if you notice the Washington, the Washington Monument in Washington D.C., that's Washington. There's nothing to do with George Washington. First of all, it's 555 feet tall. That's 6,666 inches for a reason. And it's aligned with the dog star Sirius that rises and sets right dead center over the Capitol building, the obelisk, and the Capitol building, obelisk, and the Jefferson Memorial. And it's strategically done that because they believe it's everything again in the cult is sexuality. It represents Nimrod's golden penis. And if you go back to the history of Nimrod, when his wife Semiramis, when he was killed by his brother killed Nimrod, and he cut him up and threw him in a river. She found every piece of him except for his penis, and she created a phallic to get pregnant with Tamu, known as Horus. Supposedly that it was a mockery of the coming to be the virgin birth, which she was never a virgin in the first place. It was a mockery thousands of years ahead of time to try to deframe everything to do with Christ. And this is where all this comes from. And that's everything in the cults to do with sexualism. Everything's aligned perfectly with the dog star Sirius and the star systems of Pleiades and Orion. Because if you look at the 3 stars in the sky, they call this star, and it's surrounded by 4 stars. They call this the sign of the 3 stars under the 7 stars. Because Pleiades and Orion make up 7 stars. Now, to them, the underworld is as 3 stars, you see. Pleiades and Orion with the 4 stars, all 7 together. And they believe that Nimrod became Osiris, which is in other words, a ruler of the underworld. And he's going to come back to rule the world once again. And this is what their beliefs are, and this is why they do everything the way they do. Washington, D.C., the Vatican, and Paris, France are designed specifically for this one event. And let me get to the 5 things real quick. They got the 5 stages, and again, everything's to do with 5. 1 is chaos, 2 is discord, 3 is confusion, 4 is bureaucracy, and 5, get to the page here, 5 is aftermath, and it's problem, reaction, solution. And now the top priorities right now from Adam Weishaupt is 1, the destruction of Christianity and all monarchical governments. 2, the destruction of nations such as in favor of universal utilitarianism. 3, the discouragement of patriotic and loyal effort branded by narrow-minded prejudice incompatible with tenets of goodwill to all men and the cry of universal brotherhood. And 4, the abolition of family ties and marriage by means of systematic corruption. And 5, the suppression of rights of inheritance of property. Now, if you look at the New World Order 10 Commandments, that's exactly what all these priorities are in there. And the UN calls for abolition of private property. They want a one-world government. They don't want separate states. They want patriotism. They don't want a family. They want the state. You have to get permission to have a kid. All this is all tied into this one doctrine created by the Illuminati for a one world government. And if you look at that, Agenda 21, you look at the New World 10 Commandments, you'll see everything I mentioned in those commandments and such on.
And the whole Agenda 21 is another whole other topic to go into. Yeah, some other time we definitely have to.
Agenda 21 is just modern day eugenics. That's all it is.
But also, there's a question from the chat. Dan in the chat is asking, does the belief system of the Illuminati go further back than Babylon? He says he was wondering about the stories of the Nephilim, such as Sakiria Sitchin talks about.
Oh, yes, absolutely. The fallen angels were here before humans. I mean, they were struck to the earth, and that's why God made the Garden of Eden. It was a boundary to protect Adam and Eve from any influence or such from these fallen angels. And that Lucifer was the only one that could get into that Garden of Eden to tempt, and he was only allowed to. That's why he was in the form of a serpent, because he was only allowed to try to tempt Eve. That's it. And that's why the Garden of Eden was created, basically a shield from these creatures that were upon the earth. And again, they were this world was full of these fallen angels before the flood. It was between the flood and certain prophets of God that went around to kill off. They weren't physically dead. What they did is they were cast to the underworld. And most of these fallen angels are cast there, and that's where people like the History Channel and everything say these things were ancient aliens. They were here before men, which they were right, but they are not our creators. They did teach women how to put makeup on, how to do homosexuality. Men never knew what homosexuality was. These things taught Sodom and Gomorrah, which were Nephilim. They taught men how to have intercourse. They put that into people's heads. And as all the stuff today comes from that, and that's from these Nephilim and such interfering with mankind and teaching them all these unholy things.
Thank you for that very thorough answer. I'm sure, is it Dan will be very happy with that. I believe we have Prajna on the line with a question as well. Prajna, you want to take it?
Yeah, sure. Dan, interesting listening to you. And you've talked about a great number of fictions and so on that are held by all these secret societies and that are involved with all these psychotic, crazy people who are controlling the world. You know, they hold all of these beliefs. And you've been talking about all these angels and demons as if they were something real as well. How much of this do you believe?
At first I'm like, yeah, right. You know what I mean? And later on, once you start doing history, you start learning different things, and all of a sudden you start learning, wait a minute, this matches this matches that, this matches ancient Aztec, ancient Mayan, ancient Chinese, ancient North American, all history. All of them have the same stories, and they were never connected with each other. But they have the same stories about the same things.
Do you think perhaps they're maybe all caught up in the same delusions that they all, they copy these memes, these ideas, these symbols, and these fictions just from one place to another, but actually they're primitive fictions. I was brought up in New Zealand with the Maoris, yep. And they explain in their mythology that Maui was going along in his canoe, and he was fishing in his canoe, and he pulled this big island out of the sea. Yeah, and I lived close to a lake that is so big it's tidal. It has a 4-inch tide on it. And the Maoris explained to us that this was because there was a big giant who dug the hole. And when he dug the hole, he was very tired. And then he lay down and went to sleep in the hole, and it rained. And when the water moves up and down, that's because this giant is breathing the water in and out. So how do you distinguish one belief from another belief? And how can you say the Maoris are crazy to believe about giants digging holes and then going to sleep underneath the lake?
Oh, no. Every culture, because a lot of people have a hard time believing in the Great Flood. But the thing is, every ancient culture in the world has their version of it, but they all confirm that, yes, there was a Great Flood on the earth. Even continents that never connected with each other and all have the same story of a Great Flood happening. And there's scientific proof of that happening everywhere. I mean, you don't even have to listen to them. All you have to do is know is basic science. Now, evolution corrupted all that. They did that. Evolution was designed specifically by the Illuminati to corrupt all scientific, because the scientific community all over the world didn't want nothing to do with evolution. They thought it was a joke, a fraud, and it was until not Charles Darwin, but Charles Dawson and Pierre Chardin, who created the Piltdown Man, half man, half ape. It was a fake, and they created this fake, and the whole scientific community all over the world had no choice to accept evolution. And years later, they found out it was a fraud. And by then, the whole world was just the school systems, the scientific community was just impounded with evolution, and everything just got mixed up in a big bowl, and like nobody knows what to believe anymore. But the thing is, like all the ancient cultures, all you have to do is read history. If you know history, you know the truth, and all the histories show this one event of a great flood, and they have different versions, of course, and a lot of them do talk about. Almost every quote, even the Chinese say that it was, a family in a boat with a bunch of animals. Now people say, how could one family have all the species in the world in one boat? That's impossible, which it is. But God never said one of each species. He said one of each kind. In other words, instead of a lion, tiger, cheetah, puma, panther, he would have one of each kind. A male, let's just say a male tiger and a female leopard. And that offspring, and anybody who breeds animals knows when you breed different species, you get the results of different species, and you get some of the same species. In other words, you breed two cats together, you're going to get a different species. Like if you breed dogs, if you breed a fox and a wolf together, you get a chihuahua if it's an offspring. It's that's what God meant, two of each kind. That's a lot less than two of each species. And but the thing is, all ancient cultures have the same story of this flood and a boat that had one of each, two of each kind in it, and to preserve the life and all that stuff. And it's just like when you look through history, that's when you start theatering the truth. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, absolutely. There are some things that we can easily go to science and we can look at and so on, but you're just pointing out there about all these deceptions and so on that have been spread by the Illuminati and by others and so on. And surely one of the things that all your studies will have convinced you of is that we've really got to start unlearning, disbelieving, and dissecting all of this stuff that we've been fed with all our lives, don't you think? And just before you answer that, I see Dawn's got another question that she'd like to ask as well.
Okay. Thank you.
And thank you so much for your answer.
Yes, I do actually. Dan, what do you think about the current statistics and how many world leaders come from secret societies, and what do you think it means for the future of humanity?
Well, there's two futures. It's their future, what they think they're going to do, and basically what God's going to allow. And all through history, it's been people like us. Regardless if you believe in God or not, it's been people like us, we're called renegades, that defy history, defy the plans of history. And, you always, all through history, you always had a group of elite that try to rule the world, try to push the dictatorship and everything. But it was always people through history. Great patriots stood up and gave their lives to stop this. It's a constant fight against good against evil. And, you had the Spartans, for example, against the Persians. There were 300 men that stood against thousands. And, even though they lost the battle, they paved the way for liberty throughout the planet. And, it gave them courage. And same thing here in America. We were outnumbered. It was only 5% of the population here. And against, just normal people, farmers, storekeepers, against a standing army. The British Army is like the world's strongest army at the time. They had the best guns, the best ammo, more troops than anybody. But, just the spirit of liberty that drove these guys, knowing that they were outnumbered, outgunned, the spirit of liberty and the spirit of, like, God in most people that it's, science can't explain that drove these people to win, you same thing with the Greeks. The Irish that fought against the British crown and everything, and it's for their liberty as well. And many other countries fought, fighting for the liberty. They were always outnumbered, outgunned, outpowered, and everything. But it was that spirit that drove these men for victory, and that's what science can. To this day, they cannot explain what drives a person like that.
Thank you. I believe there was a connection also, if we go back to the Freemasonry, about the to do with Freemasonry and Jehovah's Witnesses. Could you elaborate on that, please?
Oh, absolutely. Jehovah's Witnesses, Charles Taze Russell's. Now, this is back in the 1800s. Now, what happened was, I'll make this short as possible. And this is getting into the questions about Jehovah's, Mormons, Wicca, and all such. And what happened here in America was George Washington warned about the infiltration of the Illuminati. Now, Illuminati came here. They tried to restart the American Revolution. Just like they staged the French Revolution, they said it was the king and queen. No, it wasn't. The Illuminati caused the food shortages to cause people to riot, and eventually the revolution. But they tried to do that here in America. But George Washington came out of retirement to take control of the army to stop that from happening, because they tried to turn the army against its own people and everything. And but again, thank God that never happened. And so they knew they couldn't. Just picture a computer, for example, right? You got a computer, right? And just say your computer is indestructible. It's bulletproof and everything else. You can't destroy it. What's the next best thing you want to do? You want to infiltrate it. You put a disk in it, and then you would corrupt it from within, a virus. So what they did was they had this is a thing called Frankenism. This is from Germany, from the German Union, which was the Illuminati establishment. They had a thing called Frankenism. They put occultists and Illuminati people inside of religions, and they would take a sworn oath. They would do anything they had to do to prove to the people beyond a shadow of a doubt that they are true blue God-believing people. So what they did was they infiltrated the religions here in America, because everybody here was dominantly was Christian Puritan religions, Judeo-Christian here in America, and they got into that, and they had the people infiltrate the religions, the churches, and everything, and slowly but surely spawn off different religions. Charles Taze Russell's, and all these people lived in the same time era. Charles Taze Russell's, within 100 years or so, Charles Taze Russell's formed Jehovah's Witnesses. Joseph Smith formed the Mormons. Gerald Garner formed Wicca, which was a diluted version of white witchcraft. And they formed all these religions, and there was many others. The Seventh Day Adventists, the Calvin Church, the Calvinistic churches, the New Age churches, and so on and so on. All of them were formed and spawned, and it happened. Not a coincidence that every one of these founders, every single one of them, were Freemasons. Every single one of them, they were part of the Illuminati. And Charles Darwin, and Charles Darwin. Now what they had to do is they got. Here in America, what they did is they split religion completely. So they had Benjamin Franklin, who was a member of the Hellfire Club. He's the one who created separation of church and state. But the government at the time didn't allow him to do what he wanted to do. So they created the separation of church and state to protect religion so the government could never abolish it. But Benjamin Franklin's intentions was to destroy religion. But what they did was they separated religion from politics. And back then, I mean, everybody, they said a prayer before and after every political meeting. They wanted people united politically and religiously. So we run a strong country. This country is ruled with an iron fist. So what they had to do is they had to separate the two. And when they separated the two, they got into religion, destroyed it, and spawned off so many different branches. They got into the politics and created the Freemasons did. The Republican Democratic Party were created for one reason, to divide America politically. And they spawned off the one tight rope, and they spawned all the little the strings. They took all the strings apart and corrupted them all. And now, if you notice, they're slowly but surely weaving them back together as one again. But this time as a whole new system of corruption, a whole new system to praise a one-world government, a one-world religion, and a one-world economy. That's why our last several presidents, since after JFK, have all been hell-bent on pushing the United Nations to rule this country. And they've been slowly but surely taking away our constitutional rights. And this is going on in every other country as well that has freedom and such, because they want to push a one-world government and force everybody to a one-world religion. There's no more free states no more. There's no more individual sovereignty. And again, this goes right back to the priorities of the Illuminati. And this is right in the doctrines of the United Nations. They want everybody under their global control, one government, one everything, and under their control.
Dan, could you talk about, Den in the chat was saying he would quite like to know a wee bit more about Freemasons in Hollywood.
Oh, yeah. Well, Hollywood is infested. It's like if you walk into a house, a dirty house, and you turn the lights on and the cockroaches scatter everywhere. Hollywood is the most infested scum of the United States. It's infested. I mean, you can't be nobody big unless you join some kind of a occultic group, which is all connected to Freemasonry and the Illuminati as well. And there's a place in Hollywood called Eagle Rock. I mean, they have sexual satanic rituals up there. I mean, they have orgies, everything else, and everything in California. That's why California is always getting earthquakes and everything else, because I think that's God teaching these people a lesson, if you ask me. But Bohemian Groves in California and the Redwoods, Hollywood is just infested with occultism. If you look at music videos, movies, TV, people, I mean, like the symbolism is infested. They're pushing the global agendas through. I mean, you can see the cultism, and they don't hide it no more. They blatantly do it to us now because they don't care no more. They're pushing the global occultic agenda through, and nobody even cares anymore.
Yeah, I seen a picture of Madonna wearing a jacket with the Freemason, the Illuminati pyramid with the all-seeing eye. There's numerous examples, really, as you say, and like the music industry, or there's subliminal messages in their music, and I think there was a Rihanna video where she was in a Baphomet pose, or they made it look as if I think they sped it up so that it was just a subliminal mind trick or something. Yep. The imagery, but if you'd slowed down the film, you could actually see it and paused it at a certain part. That was one of her music videos. I'm not actually sure which one that was. I need to find that out. But just before, I think we have Susan on the line wanting to ask a question as well. But before we go to that, can we go back to the levels of the Freemasonry? Because
I want to talk about the Palladium. The Palladium is like it's a group of Freemasons merged of different orders merged together, and I got that right here, and I'll tell you exactly what the Palladium is. It's basically it's an unholy alliance. Now this is quoted from Masonry Beyond the Light. It's a book written by Bill Schnoebelen, William Schnoebelen, and you can find it on withooneaccord.org. If you go withooneaccord.org, you can order these books. And again, you're getting a testimony from a real former Illuminati, top Freemason, and occultist, and everything else. But he talks about the Palladium. Now, it's an unholy alliance. In 1870, Albert Pike and Mazzini completed an agreement to create a supreme universal rite of Masonry, which would overarch all other rites, even the different national rites. It would centralize the high Masonic bodies of the world under one head. This would be the ultimate sense of Lucifer. However, Pike and Mazzini would be his human regents, and to this end, the Palladium Rite was created as a pinnacle of the pyramid of power. In other words, it's the top of the power of the elite, like basically right under the Illuminati, and they're the ones who basically control the whole infrastructure of Freemasonry, and it consists of the York Rite, Scottish Rite, and so on, that will have members represent each rite that go to this. You know, I mean, you got a bunch of, in other words, you got a bunch of tribes in your. You got a bunch of sub-tribes. You're Indians, right? And you got a bunch of sub-tribes, and you got a chief of every sub-tribe. What you do is you have a representative or the chief of every one of those come together and form a higher alliance. Like the United Nations, for example. You got the U.S. and so on, but they all meet together, representatives, for a higher alliance. And that's what the Palladium is about. And that's basically the origin of the United Nations as well. But it's an alliance to the Palladium that is the hierarchy of Freemasonry.
It's really very interesting, which has actually triggered another couple of questions. But actually, where would be the best place to get information about all these kind of the Palladium and all that? What kind of books would you recommend? And also, before you answer that, I also wanted to ask you, I seen an interview as a 32nd degree Freemason who was talking about this other Freemason they broke the oath basically, and they were talking about this 33rd degree Mason who was talking about publicly it's supposedly that it only goes up to the 33 degrees, but he was saying that this guy had said that he was studying to move up the ranks even further. Can you talk about how high are you aware that it goes? I mean,
it actually goes up to 360 degrees. Literally completing the full circle. That's why they use a square and compass, and it goes right back to the beginning again. You got the square and compass and the G, And the Freemason symbol, the square and compass, was also used as navigational tools as well. For charting maps and everything else. And it represents the entire 360 degrees. Anybody that's a pilot or operates boats knows the 360-degree compass and whatnot. And that goes right back to that again. See, now you can see how this is all connected. So again, most 33-degree Freemasons don't even know. They think they're at the top of the pyramid. They think they're the elite of the elite, but they have no clue in hell that there's another rite that succeeds, which is the Palladium. That it's a higher rite. It's an ancient rite of Memphis. Memphis, Mizraim is Egypt. It goes back to ancient Egypt, the city of On, which is the ancient city of the sun. Now, even Genesis in the Bible talks about On. The city of the sun was a city of Egypt dedicated to worship of the sun. And this goes back to the great builders of Nimrod and such. It's an ancient primitive rite, and it goes up to 360 degrees, far beyond any normal Mason could even fathom.
Right. I'm definitely going to look further into this. I think, actually, before I ask you the last couple of questions, Susan has a quick question to ask you. So,
sure.
Susan, could you go for it?
Yeah, excuse me, I don't know if it's going to be quick, but I'll do my best. Dan, do you believe that knowledge was scattered, and that it was scattered for a reason?
Oh yes, again it goes right back to the how it's all connected, everything, and it goes back to the Tower of Babel, like the city, the kingdom of Babylon, the empire, and that's why the Eastern mysticism coming. All these religions all believe different things, whatever, but it's all the same thing. It's the knowledge was scattered for a reason, because they were building at the time they were trying to push a new world order back then. They wanted a one world government, everything under the rule of basically a Luciferian doctrine. And that's why God had to destroy that and mix up the languages, because people were basically uniting, but under a false flag, so to speak, under a false banner, and humans would have destroyed themselves. And it was done for a reason, and especially at that time and age. Now, if you notice, we're all starting to come back together again. And now the European Union, they have a slogan, the same exact slogan as if you notice the European Parliament building. If anybody could Google it, type European Parliament building, look at the building. It's unfinished at the top. It's done that way for a reason, because it represents the Tower of Babel. And that slogan is one world, one voice. The slogan of back then was one world, one voice. They wanted one world, one everything, one rule. And they're doing that again today. Now we have the technology and the understanding today that all of us could talk to anybody in the world. I could talk to somebody from Japan, France, Spain, whatever. And we have translators, we have people have knowledge of learning other languages. So knowledge is not forbidden no more. We're going into space, we're doing all this stuff, and we have this technology. But the thing is, they wanted to bring this world kingdom back then, but it wasn't time. This is what the Bible calls the tribulation under Satan's rule. And this is where all the ties in. Did I answer the question, Susan?
Sort of, kind of, yes, but it leads me into my next question.
Sure.
So do you acknowledge that the information, the knowledge, was scattered to certain tribes, and that therefore perhaps their ground core belief is not similar to what I assume to be your ground core belief, and that there is one God? Do you accept the fact that there are different entities on this planet and not necessarily of a nasty nature?
Well,
and that the information was scattered to certain.
The information was scattered, but it was preserved too. Enoch, he preserved it for a good reason, but the information and all that was preserved through the flood and all that, and also Tubal Cain, he's one of the ones that preserved the knowledge as well. That's why he's highly worshipped, and him and Hiram Biff highly worshipped in Freemasonry, because they preserved this knowledge, this ancient knowledge that they preserved through the flood and all that, which was technically Enoch, but what they do is they twist it around. Now, regardless of, there's people out there of all different faiths, Muslims, Hindus, Buddhists, Christians, but the thing is, people need to realize, the people who rule this planet, the top elite, they are nothing but pure Luciferian. They believe in Lucifer as God, and they acknowledge that God is real. but they tell the lower levels, they tell normal people that God doesn't exist. There's this God, that God, but they know there's only two people, Lucifer and God, and they believe God, Lucifer are equal. They believe Lucifer has equal power of God, and he represents the light, and God represents the darkness. But this is what they believe. This is what they structure the entire system of this planet around this one thing, and it's all for the one thing. When this when this Antichrist comes, now he's going to claim to be the fourth Buddha. He's going to claim to be the Maitreya. He's going to be claimed to be the universal Christ that every religion in this world is going to bow under, Muslims included. Now, the Vatican's already set up the ecumenical system, which the UN adopted as the official one world religion. Every religion in the world all acknowledges this, and they pay patronage and tribute to this one world religion. And unfortunately, even most Christians do too. But it's a false religion. They promise world peace. They promise you. We all have different, different ways to heaven, but we all serve the same God, which is blasphemy. And this has been planned about 6,000 years ago for this, this time and day and age. And again, the people at the top all believe in God. They believe in Jesus, the Son of God, but they believe Lucifer is basically going to conquer them and going to defeat them. And Lucifer is going to be the ruler of this planet forever. And that's what they're working for. That's why they built the structures the way they do. That's why they corrupt all religions. That's why they corrupt the school systems, everything. They want people dead, bottom line. They want a new world order. They want a perfect world, but they don't want to share it with nobody. That's why they want to kill over 90% of the world's population, because they hate anything to do with God. And the people who serve these people, they think they're going to share this perfect world with them. No, they're not. Because if
I do have more questions, but
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. We're running out of time. It's been absolutely fantastic having you on, Dan, and we'll definitely have to have you on again because you obviously have so much to say, and you've been a fantastic guest. But just to finish up there, can you share any links that you want to get out there about yourself, and also can you give us information about where we could go to get more information on the subject? Where would you recommend? What books or documentaries?
Definitely. First of all, Infowars.com. If you click on store or shop, or InfowarsShop.com, and we got tons of books, Bloodlines of the Illuminati. We carry tons of books by Tex Mods, Codex Magica. Bill Schnoblin's books, I mean, this guy is amazing. It's with one accord. You got to spell it out, WITHONEACCORD.org. I mean, he's got books on Illuminati, Freemasonry, Wicca, black magic. He exposes it all. I mean, this guy's a one-shop stop. And his website, you can order the books, the videos from, and it's so much full of great knowledge. And also Tex Maz, powerofprophecy.com. He's got he's an author of over 40-something plus books, and he exposes all this as well. Also, CiscoWheeler.com. She was a former Mothers of Darkness. She has got a great book called Behold the White Horse, which I didn't even get to. It talks about the Serpents of Wisdom, which is the inner core of basically almost right, like the center of the web of it all is Lucifer, then there's the Serpents of Wisdom. And that's a whole new story altogether. I mean, I'll have to come back some other time, but she talks about all that as well. And those are the websites. And I mean, I can give you links and you can post them if you want.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm sorry. If you go to truthradioshow.com, you click on links. Every link I said is all on that one page. That's my website, truthradioshow.com. And you click on links, and all those books, all that stuff is right there. Links and media. The links page and the media page has all the books and videos I mentioned all on that one page.
Fantastic. That's super. So we'll just round it up now. Thanks for coming on the show, Dan, and we're definitely going to have you on again in the future. And that's all for tonight on Don's Diorama. So thanks to everybody who's contributed. Thanks to all the listeners, and good night.